Welcome back, everyone. We're going to take a look at this news video. Taliban kills woman over burka after giving women's rights promise. Yep, can't trust the Taliban. Let's see what our buddies over at Newsmax have to say about this.
All right, welcome back. The Taliban has killed a woman for not wearing her burqa in public. This is according to Fox News. Her death comes the same day the Taliban vowed to honor women's rights.
Yep, they're already going to kill people. They're going to kill women, children, anyone that doesn't believe what they believe in, and then that's how they control the whole country out of fear. It's not just their beliefs, that's how they're going to control the country.
Spokesperson for the Taliban saying they would honor these women's rights within the norms of Islamic law, so Sharia law.
Well, the problem is it's so tribal that even if one person that might be somewhat higher up as an elder says we're going to respect women's rights, that doesn't make it so, because there's too many tribes.
Would not elaborate on the Taliban, how they've encouraged women to head back to school and work. Here's what State Department spokesperson Ned Price said yesterday.
We've heard quite a bit from Taliban officials over the past hours and even several days. We are taking stock of everything that they have said. Most importantly, we are going to be looking for how they comport themselves, at the way they treat their people.
At the end of the day, who cares if we notice stuff going on? What are we going to do about it? We're pulling out. There's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, we could be like, hey, shame on you, but there's nothing we can do about it because we're not going to be there any longer, which I don't think we should be tied up in a war there any longer. Nation build, as you've heard me mention in my other videos. Yeah, no, I mean, sadly, there's nothing we can do.
At how they fulfill the obligation, the solemn obligation they have to respect the basic and fundamental rights of all of their people, including half of their citizens, the women and girls of Afghanistan.
I almost thought he wasn't even going to say women, because he went with half their citizens, and then he kind of seemed like, oh, I better say women and children. It's like he didn't even want to say women.
Keep in mind, of course, this has never been done by the Taliban in the history of the Taliban. And joining us now is Nancy Brinker. She's the former U.S. ambassador to Hungary under President George W. Bush. She's also the host of Conversations with Nancy Brinker right here on Newsmax. Also with us, columnist at The Hill and author of The Liberal Invasion of Red State America, Kristen Tate. Great to have you both with us. Ambassador Brinker, first to you on this one. I wanted to get your reaction to what Ned Price was saying there. Of course, you know, we all would love to hold the Taliban to account for doing these things, but we're hearing different stories on the ground of Afghanistan right now. Isn't it a little bit naive for not only Ned Price, but also for Linda Thomas-Greenfield at the UN to be saying we demand these things from the Taliban when they have never been willing to live up to these obligations before?
And you can place those demands all day long. We're not there, so what's it really matter? I mean, this is kind of a mute point because we're not going to be there, so what's it really matter other than being reported? I mean, way before we went into Afghanistan, before, 9/11, all that, we didn't really care what happened in Afghanistan then with the women and children, sadly. So why do you think the administration or American people should care now? And what would we even do if we're not there? It's one thing if you're there, you're going to say these are the laws and rules you're going to abide by, but we're gone. There's nothing we can do.
Right, John, and there's plenty of blame to go around for this. That just makes me so sad and so concerned, really. I think one of the best articles I've read in terms of women's issues was today in the Wall Street Journal by my friend Charity Wallace, who was my deputy as I served for Chief of Protocol and also a deputy to Mrs. Bush for some years. She writes, "The nightmare resumes for Afghan women." And there are 15 million women living in Afghanistan. And
maybe these women of Afghanistan need to be, instead of coming to us and saying, hey, our rights and this and that, maybe they should be talking to their men and saying, hey, if you love us, why are you jumping on a plane and leaving? You should stay here, fight for your country, fight for our rights, fight for your rights. Let's have freedom. But no. No, it's our responsibility somehow. Yeah, it's sad, but again, what are we to do?
They've made great steps going forward because we educated people. We got organizations to help the Taliban understand and meet with them, but also the Afghani citizens, that if they educated their women, if they allowed them to make steps forward, allow them to be active and in their families and in their communities and lead, everything would go better. And indeed it was. This has been 20 years of a massive effort. My friend Laura Bush has been involved in this from the beginning. And honestly, when I see what has been done and now the danger these women have, the danger, John, is so enormous. The woman being killed last night, this is just the beginning. The abuse, the attacks. What are they supposed to do? Spend the rest of their lives now, go back and living in burkas?
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. And that's what happens when you're 300,000 trained, that we trained and armed and gave supplies to troops, Afghani troops, didn't even step up and put up somewhat of a fight. 300,000. You don't think they, with maybe some support of us, airstrikes or whatever, could have repelled these Taliban coming in? Of course they could have, but they didn't. They set down their arms. They want to go back to those ways. They're going to go back to those ways of wearing burqas and having no rights. That's the sad reality of it.
And I mean, it's not human what's going on.
That's the reality we're facing. And Kristen, I think, the kind of grotesque irony of this is that, every single female that was appointed to a high-level position in the Biden administration, they talked about how historic it was and the glass ceilings that were being broken, but they were obviously more focused on that than this in Afghanistan, and yet here we are, 20 years, treasure, sweat, blood, lives lost, and the one silver lining for many of us who knew this was a waste of American effort in Afghanistan is that there were significant changes for the women there, and that this might be the hope that might justify all that had been wasted and lost.
That's right. And I agree with everything that Nancy just said. It's so tragic what's happening there to the women on the ground in Afghanistan. I will say that there is a very good argument that we should have left Afghanistan a long time ago. I'm sympathetic to those arguments. We have a lot of problems here at home where we could be directing our time and resources. But the way in which this was done, it's just catastrophic.
You really got to blame the Afghani forces for not stepping up here. Yeah, we should have withdrawn like this maybe, and maybe President Biden should have grown a pair and actually said, okay, Trump's term didn't work, I'm extending to September, but, maybe I'm going to add a little bit more forces, at least secure the major city and have that under control as we slowly withdraw completely. And that way we could remove our assets or destroy our assets there, that instead of leaving them behind.
It's tragic. There are still thousands of Americans left in Afghanistan. So this is really going to harm the Biden administration.
Well, if you're a person working for a company that went to Afghanistan, you're not part of the U.S. military or diplomatic corps or any of that, then you go there knowing that this is a volatile country and anything could happen and you might have to leave. What is your backup plan? You go there under your own accord. It's up to you. I don't know why it's always, oh, well, there's all these people left there and we should burden the responsibility of getting them out. Why is that on us? Somebody that's lived overseas, I mean, you would like to think that, my father being part of the State Department, and we would be able to easily get out of one of these third world countries that we lived in, like Togo or Pakistan, or heck, even Mexico is kind of third world. But if something happened, that you'd be able to get out and that they would get you out, and because you're a government, they are going to do their best to get you out. But I had plenty of friends that work for Coca-Cola or other private companies. Their parents work for these private companies. I mean, it's up to those companies really to get out their people more so than relying on any one particular government. I mean, it's just, you can't rely on any one particular government or the U.S. government to come save your butt.
Administration politically, for the first time really since Biden has taken office, I have seen figures in the mainstream media who have really been apologists for this administration for the first time, speaking critically about Joe Biden and the decision he made and the way that this was done.
Oh yeah,
It's
people aren't
created
liking this at
suffering
all.
on a scale that we've not seen before, and it's just so sad.
Even
John,
most
but I will
Dems
say
don't like what's
I do
happening.
think we should have left Afghanistan a long time ago. We've got a lot of problems here at home, and if you want to talk about the rise in terrorism and the threat of terrorism in this country, we should be talking about the southern border as well, which is wide open. And people in the Middle East or around the world really who want to do harm know they can just fly to Mexico and walk right across our open border and come into this country.
We will talk about that later. I do want to focus on these women in Afghanistan. Ambassador Brinker, you have, obviously everyone knows your history with charity work here. We do want to highlight some organizations which have done good in the area of refugee resettlement in the past. SaveTheChildren.org, Rescue.org. And, I'm often critical of the United Nations, but the United Nations Human Rights Council here, the refugee resettlement effort, it is actually pretty decent for what they are tasked with. So let's talk a little bit more about these agencies, Ambassador Brinker, and what they actually do in Afghanistan.
Yeah, well, things were really gelling. I mean, there were some.
Well, good luck, because these organizations weren't in Afghanistan before the Taliban. Taliban had complete control, before we ever went in. So these organizations, yeah, you might give them something, but maybe it will be used in the short term here while they can be there. But Taliban's it's gonna go back. I think my prediction is within a year, it's gonna go back to basically living in a cave society in mud huts. Honestly. I mean, I don't know, maybe China or Russia will prop it up, especially China, because of the mineral rights that are there in the trillions. They might prop it up and help the Taliban have somewhat of a economy, but it's still, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a first world economy, and it's definitely not on that path now. It's going way down. It's going to be way at the bottom.
Great stories. I do think the way we went in, it's never easy to go into a country, into this kind of situation, and it's even harder to leave. And these organizations, which will be listed, I understand, after we finish talking,
Yeah, they're on the screen.
They're not going to be there for long term.
Good. I just so encourage people to become active in these organizations, send a donation.
I would like to tell people, because I don't know, I didn't watch this video, I didn't look this up beforehand. Look at what the CEO makes of each of these organizations. Well, the UN might just be UN, but how much money is given to them per, them giving back out. How much is the CEO making of SaveTheChildren.org or Rescue.org? What are the top people making? Because if they're making millions and millions of dollars, unfortunately, it's sad, but they're probably not worth giving to. I'm an atheist, but that's where churches really do come in handy, because you give to a church that's gonna go over there and help the people. Yeah, they're gonna preach, Jesus and God and this and that, but they're also gonna help and provide support and try to help the people, and they will use as much money as they can to do that. So there is a plus side to those churches that go over to places to help, but although that's a real crazy country to be going to, because you're Christian, they're not going to like you too much. So yeah, it's not like other countries where it might be dangerous for you, but you can kind of get away with going there, missionary and helping out the people and stuff. But yeah, Taliban's totally different. Afghanistan's totally different.
Don't lose faith in them, and we have to let these women know we care, we believe in them, and we have to hold people accountable.
No, we need to tell them that you need to get your men there to stand up and fight for your rights. That's what we need to be doing. You would think 20 years of Afghanis having somewhat of a commerce, TVs and phones and this and that, compared to when we went in there, that the younger people, these younger Afghanis that are with the Taliban, you would think to a degree they wouldn't want to go totally backwards, because they wouldn't have that cell phone, they wouldn't have a TV, radio, and other choices in the marketplace. But I don't know. We'll see. You would think young people just wouldn't want to go backwards. I know I wouldn't, but maybe they will, because their belief is so strong that maybe they're like the Amish and they're gonna believe like we can't have that, and they're not going to. They'll just destroy it all.
It's as if we went in there without a plan understood by, I guess, seemingly a lot of people, and yet announcing what we were going to do to our enemy. I mean, it's been astonishing and heartbreaking to watch this. But I do encourage people to sign up for these charities. You can go to the website of the Bush Institute and find other organizations.
Just anything to do with the Bushes, I'm sick of. You would think, oh, hey, you kind of lean Republican, which, one family should not be in control of government. Jeb Bush and Bush Sr. and Bush Jr. and all that. Presidency shouldn't be a dynasty. And that's where, some people were like, oh, Michelle Obama she should run for president. I wouldn't vote for her even if she was the best candidate, just because her husband has already been in office. We don't need a dynasty here. We don't need Obama, Barack, and then Michelle, and then one of their kids, and then this and that. It kind of goes the same for, I think Trump Jr. would actually make a better president than his father, just because he's a lot more articulate, a lot more well-spoken, and, I think he would have actually been pretty good, but I probably wouldn't vote for him now because I don't want to see a dynasty. We shouldn't have the same families stay in politics. Okay, you were in, you're out. Your family shouldn't be able to hold the presidency for a few generations. We don't need to make it a political dynasty for your family.
What has been done and get more detail about this. But I encourage everybody, get involved. And with the UN. They shouldn't be let off the hook. They need to be very involved in this, and we need to put forward.
What's the UN going to do? Send international peacekeepers there that can't fire on anyone, that have no control, end up getting killed? Who wants to join the UN? I'm not quite sure how that works, if we just send troops to the UN, or you somehow volunteer to be in the UN to, have a gun and be a peacekeeper, but not be able to use your gun. Yeah.
Forward real programs that can be funded, followed, and adopted in a situation like this.
Yeah, there's a lot of, as you mentioned, a lot of blame to go around. I know some people are very, very critical of the Bush administration, but we have talked at length about the First Lady Laura Bush's efforts to improve the lives of women in Afghanistan, and that is beyond reproach. Nancy, thank you so much for your time.
Bushes.
Kristen, great to see you as always. We'll talk soon.
You just watched.
Okay, yeah, that was it. That was decent from Newsmax, but kind of pushing the whole Bush charity thing is pretty annoying, really. Sad reality is, to sum it up, we're not going to be there, so they're going to go back to having to wear burkas if that's what the Taliban requires. Women aren't going to have rights, children won't get an education, they will go back to a primitive society, most likely, and or China's going to prop them up while they extract those minerals, and once those minerals are gone, I don't know how long that would take, how many decades, but once those minerals are gone, then no one will care about Afghanistan once again unless some other new resource is found there. So, yeah, I feel sorry for the people, but there's not anything we can do. We are out of there. So, anyways, I hope everyone takes care, stay well, stay safe, my friends, and be thankful you actually live in the country you live in that you're probably watching this from, a Western society, because you have a lot of freedoms. It might not seem sometimes that you have freedoms, but you do. I'm sitting here making a video reacting to what's going on in the world. That is a freedom that a lot of the world doesn't have, or have internet, or know what's going on in the world. Maybe we're a little too educated because we know what's going on in the world. Maybe if we could easily be like the Taliban and not know if we didn't have freedom of information and freedom of speech and be able to voice ourselves, you know? Anyways, take care all. Have a good one.